Slobodan Milošević. Slobodan Milošević was the president of Serbia and later Yugoslavia from 1989 until 2000. He ascended to power by exploiting nationalist sentiments during the breakup of Yugoslavia, igniting conflicts in Croatia, Bosnia, and Kosovo. Milošević's policies included ethnic cleansing campaigns and atrocities against non-Serb populations, notably culminating in genocide in Srebrenica, Bosnia. Milošević was tried at the International Criminal Tribunal for war crimes and genocide, but died before its conclusion. Charles Taylor. Charles Taylor was president of Liberia from 1997 to 2003, infamous for his involvement in regional conflicts and severe human rights violations. Initially seizing power through a civil war, Taylor's tenure was marred by extensive corruption, economic mismanagement, and harsh suppression of dissent. Taylor's regime was accused of orchestrating massacres, recruiting child soldiers, and perpetrating sexual violence resulting in an estimated 70,000 deaths. Francisco Franco was the dictator of Spain from 1939 until his death in 1975. Rising to power through the Spanish Civil War, Franco's regime was characterized by brutal repression. Franco established a totalitarian state that centralized power, suppressed regional autonomy, and enforced strict Catholic conservatism in Spain. His policies marginalized minorities and silenced dissent, resulting in decades of repression and economic stagnation. Ariel Castro. Ariel Castro was an American kidnapper and perpetrator of one of the most heinous cases of captivity and abuse in recent memory. Between 2002 and 2013, he abducted 3 young women, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus, and held them captive in his Cleveland home. Castro subjected them to years of physical, sexual, and psychological torture, impregnating one of the victims multiple times and forcing miscarriages through starvation and beatings. Castro's capture in 2013 led to his conviction on multiple counts of kidnapping, rape, and murder related to the unborn children, but he committed suicide in prison shortly after that. Anders Behring Breivik is a Norwegian far-right extremist who perpetrated July 22, 2011 attacks in Norway, involving a bombing in Oslo and a mass shooting at a youth camp on Utøya Island. His meticulously planned assaults targeted the government and the Labour Party, resulting in the deaths of 77 people, mostly teenagers. Breivik's manifesto and actions revealed extreme xenophobic and Islamophobic beliefs, driven by a desire to protect what he viewed as traditional European culture from multiculturalism and immigration. Jeffrey Dahmer was a notorious American serial killer who operated between 1978 and 1991, primarily in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was convicted of murdering 17 young men and boys, engaging in acts of necrophilia, dismemberment, and cannibalism. He lured his victims to his apartment under false pretenses. His methods of preserving body parts and his attempts to create living zombies through lobotomy and acid injections highlighted his depravity and complete disregard for human life. Ted Bundy. He was a notorious American serial killer who murdered numerous young women in the 1970s. He was charismatic and used his charm to lure victims, often pretending to be injured or in need of assistance. Bundy's modus operandi included brutal assaults, rape, and necrophilia. His crimes spanned several states, and he managed to evade capture multiple times. He is confirmed to have murdered 30 women, though he confessed to 36 murders before his execution in 1989. Bernard Madoff was a former financier and investment advisor who orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history. Through his firm, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, LLC, Madoff defrauded thousands of investors, including individuals, charities, and financial institutions, of billions of dollars over several decades. He falsified investment returns and used new investor funds to pay returns to earlier investors, deceiving regulators and clients alike. Madoff's scheme collapsed in 2008 during the financial crisis, exposing the full extent of his deception and causing severe financial losses for many. He was given a 150-year prison sentence for his crimes. King Leopold II. King Leopold was the ruler of Belgium from 1865 to 1909. He is infamous for his brutal exploitation of the Congo Free State, a vast region in Central Africa that he personally controlled from 1885 to 1908. Under his rule, the Congolese people were subjected to horrific abuses, including forced labor, mutilation, and mass killings, as Leopold sought to extract rubber, ivory, and other resources. The brutal regime led to the deaths of millions of Congolese, with estimates ranging from 5 to 10 million. Leopold's actions in the Congo are widely regarded as one of the worst atrocities of colonialism, marking him as one of history's most ruthless and evil rulers. His exploitation was eventually exposed, leading to international outrage and the transfer of the Congo Free State to the Belgian government in 1908. King Herod the Great. King Herod the Great was a ruler of Judea under Roman occupation, known for his ambitious building projects and his complex, often brutal reign. Despite his achievements, Herod is infamously remembered for his cruelty and paranoia. He executed several members of his own family, including his wife and sons, out of fear they were plotting against him. In the Christian tradition, he is most notorious for the massacre of the innocents, as described in the Gospel of Matthew, where he ordered the killing of all male infants in Bethlehem in an attempt to eliminate the newborn Jesus, though the historicity of this event is debated. King John of England. King John of England was a monarch whose reign was often associated with tyranny and failure. He became king in 1199 and ruled until his death. John is most notorious for losing significant territories in France, including Normandy, which weakened his rule. He imposed heavy taxes on his subjects to fund failed military campaigns, leading to widespread suffering and resentment. John abused his power by seizing lands and properties from nobles without just cause, betraying the trust of those who should have been his allies. His cruelty extended to his own family, with suspicions that he murdered his nephew Arthur to eliminate a rival. His conflict with the church led to his excommunication, further isolating him from his people. Even after being forced to sign the Magna Carta, a document meant to curb his abuses, John attempted to nullify it, sparking civil war. Vlad the Impaler, also known as Vlad III or Vlad Dracula, he was a 15th century ruler of Wallachia, a region in present-day Romania. He is infamous for his brutal methods of punishment, particularly impalement, which earned him his grim nickname. Vlad ruled during a time of political instability and constant warfare, particularly against the Ottoman Empire. He used extreme cruelty to maintain power and instill fear, impaling thousands of enemies, criminals, and those he suspected of disloyalty. His reign was marked by mass executions, with entire villages sometimes wiped out in horrific ways. He killed an estimated 100,000 people. While some view him as a national hero for defending his land from invaders, his excessive brutality has made him one of history's most notorious figures. Vlad's legacy inspired the fictional character of Count Dracula, cementing his reputation as a symbol of terror. Ivan the Terrible. Born Ivan IV, he was the first emperor of Russia and is notorious for his ruthless and tyrannical reign. He became Tsar in 1547 and is known for centralizing power, expanding Russian territory, and creating a centralized state. Ivan established the Oprichnina, a secret police force that terrorized the nobility and common people alike, leading to mass executions and widespread fear. His brutal acts included the sacking of Novgorod, where thousands were tortured and killed, and the personal murder of his own son in a fit of rage. Ivan's reign is remembered for the terror he inflicted on his people, earning him the nickname Terrible, which in Russian conveys a sense of awe-inspiring dread. Despite his cruelty, Ivan's actions laid the groundwork for the future Russian Empire. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was the founder and first great Khan of the Mongol Empire, which became the largest contiguous empire in history after his death. Born as Temujin, he united the Mongol tribes and launched a series of military campaigns across Asia and Europe. Genghis Khan is notorious for his ruthlessness in battle and his willingness to use terror as a tool of conquest. His armies were responsible for the deaths of millions, often wiping out entire cities and populations that resisted him. Despite this, he was also a shrewd leader who implemented innovative military tactics, established a meritocratic system, and promoted trade and communication across his vast empire. Queen Mary I. Queen Mary I of England was the daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. She is best known for her attempts to restore Roman Catholicism in England after her father's and brother, Edward VI's, Protestant reforms. Her reign, from 1553 to 1558, earned her the nickname Bloody Mary due to her persecution of Protestants. Mary ordered the execution of over 300 Protestant reformers, including prominent figures like bishops and theologians, who were burned at the stake. Her harsh measures and religious persecution led to widespread fear and resentment. Mary's marriage to Philip II of Spain and her inability to produce an heir further alienated her from her subjects. Her death in 1558 led to the ascension of her half-sister Elizabeth I, who reversed Mary's Catholic policies and restored Protestantism in England. Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi was the leader of Libya, He seized power in a coup and established a regime that combined elements of socialism and Arab nationalism. Gaddafi ruled with an iron fist, creating a highly centralized state while promoting his own form of Green Book socialism, which advocated for a mix of direct democracy and socialism. His rule was marked by severe human rights abuses, including the suppression of political dissent, imprisonment of opponents, and state-sponsored terrorism, such as the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 in 1988, which killed 270 people. Gaddafi's policies and erratic behavior, coupled with a lavish lifestyle, made him a controversial and polarizing figure internationally. His regime was overthrown during the Libyan civil war in 2011, leading to his capture and death by lynching. His fall marked a significant moment in the Arab Spring and left Libya in a state of ongoing turmoil. Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán. He is a notorious Mexican drug lord and leader of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. His criminal career began in the 1980s, and he rose to prominence through his involvement in the trafficking of cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and marijuana. Guzmán is infamous for his brutal methods, including violence and intimidation to maintain control and eliminate rivals. He escaped from prison twice, once in 2001 and again in 2015 through elaborate tunneling operations, which added to his reputation for cunning and resourcefulness. His capture in 2016 and subsequent extradition to the US led to a highly publicized trial, where he was convicted in 2019 on multiple charges including drug trafficking, money laundering, and involvement in organized crime.